Right, let's get into some exposés or holding some feet to the fire, shall we? And first off, there's a lawsuit that was filed this week by the American Civil Liberties Union against the FBI, accusing the law enforcement agency of breaking the encryption on iPhones and other devices without letting ordinary users know they're no longer secure. And the FBI already have technical capabilities that permits them to decrypt, unlock, or otherwise access information on secured political devices, the ACLU claims in its lawsuit, which was filed on Tuesday. Yet the agency continues to complain about encryption as if it's stopping them from catching criminals. That's not why they do it. And that was all given to them by the CIA and NSA, who created it, encryption and crypto. The advocacy group has submitted a Freedom of Information Act request since 2018 to learn exactly how the FBI can access data on encrypted or otherwise protected devices, but has got nowhere, earning only the notorious "we neither confirm nor deny," as the agency refuses to even admit records related to its electronic device analysis unit even exist. Now, the suit alleges that the FBI has contracted with companies like Grayshift, which makes a passcode cracking tool that works on some iPhones, and Checkpoint Technologies, which permits detailed microscopic views of electronics hardware in a way that could assist investigators with determining secret encryption keys stored on hardware. Now, a job posting for the EDAU even admitted the division of extracts data from locked iPhones, according to the filing, yet the FBI refuses to admit as much to the public. Indeed, its response to the ACLU's Freedom of Information Act requests consists entirely of responses of "can neither confirm nor deny." Now, the suit merely asks the FBI to cough up the requested records, allowing iPhone users to at least understand the extent to which the agency can hack into their phones. The notion that the agency can neither confirm nor deny the existence of any records about a publicly known unit within itself is ludicrous, the filing states. While the FBI was publicly rebuffed in 2016 when it demanded the password to an alleged mass shooter's iPhone, the agency has since purchased tools from multiple companies that have allowed it to gain access to encrypted devices. And the report says even as Apple plugs the vulnerabilities, law enforcement has allegedly contracted with multiple companies to continue to gain access to the supposedly privacy prioritizing devices. So now the FBI, like the CIA and NSA, are purchasing up all the technology companies as well. Where is the oversight on this? Yes, I know, it's another common sense question. But you need to ponder on this. You do realise they're using public's money to buy up private concerns and then gain profits on our tax dollars. All subsidiary companies owned via agencies have all been paid for by the public. And what do we get in return? More spying on us, less freedoms, and more tyranny. This is another addition to the From Russia with Love plus 3D Dutch connection. And what is interesting about this is whilst they were thrown under the bus per se to protect a larger operation, then the length of the sentences compared to the crimes committed becomes indicative of just us, not just is. Which is why I think mass arrests overall will not change the system. You have to delete the program. We were told George Soros died in November 2018, yet the program lives on. And the same can apply to the Clintons. The program is still running. The MIVD is the Military Intelligence and Security Service of the Netherlands and the militaristic counterpart of the AIVD, and it was formerly known as the Militair Inlichtingendienst. I don't think I said that correctly. Well, I don't care. MID, and was given its current name in 2002. MIVD is part of the Dutch MOD. William Matzer, I think we covered his name in that show, an officer in Dutch military intelligence and advisor to NATO, make the connection, Secretary General, was arrested in 2003 together with an Italian crime boss, P2 Lodge, on a 9-digit money laundering charge. Sybil Edmonds has cited this incident as evidence of NATO's connection with the high-level international drug trade. William Matzer is a Dutch spook and a deep state functionary who was one of the NATO Secretary-General Lord Robertson's top policy experts. Now, he was charged with various offences in connection with an operation that laundered $200 million of money laundering between Colombia and Romania. Now, Matzer denied the charges but was found guilty of fraud and forgery and was sentenced to time served, almost 1 year, for $200 million of money laundering to do with drugs. Matzer saw the Secretary General of NATO on a daily basis, and his work with NATO took him all over the world. As of October 2019, the NATO website still featured material attributed to Wilhelm Matzer. In 2001, Matzer wrote for NATO Review on NATO-Russia relations in the wake of September the 11th and the prospects for improved cooperation. On the 3rd of February 2003, Matzer, then aged 50, was arrested in his office at NATO headquarters in Brussels on suspicion of laundering $200 million for a Colombian drug cartel, and got less than a year in jail. Police seized a $200,000 transaction document issued by Bank Santander. Yes, those that stole the trust money. In Bogota, Colombia, in favour of Tender SA, together with a CD detailing a $200 million transfer to the company. Now, Matzer was sentenced to 14 months in prison, but was ordered released because he'd already served 2/3 of his sentence in pretrial detention and was given 3 years probation. His co-accused, Pietro Fedino and Wilhelm van Voorthuizen of Nijmegen, were respectively sentenced to jail terms of 15 and 18 years. No, months, of which 3 months was suspended. Now, the unusual name Matzah facilitates exploration of reporting on the case, and commercially controlled media reporting of the case has been very low. No US newspapers or TV channels are known to have reported on his arrest or on his trial or sentencing of Wilhelm Matzah. The Washington Post has made no mention of Matzah since 2005. Earlier references are all paywalled. And in the middle of January 2004, the Times of London had a short 48-word article about the matter as an agency news item from the AFP. And this is why, even though the FBI routinely monitored the communications of the diplomatic arms of all countries, only 4 countries were exempt from this protocol. The UK, Turkey, Azerbaijan, we covered them in the Caliphate piece, remember, Turkey being more obvious, and Belgium, the head of NATO. No other country, not even allies like Israel or Saudi Arabia, were exempt. This is because those 4 countries were integral to the Pentagon's and the CIA's so-called Gladio B operations. That's how they work. We're going to out another group now that's rarely known in America, but has a massive influence on policy within this country. The Royal Institute for International Affairs, also known as Chatham House, is an organ of the UK deep state. Now, it was founded in 1920 and is a linchpin of the British foreign policy establishment. The Chatham House rule requires confidentiality of all meetings, participants, and prohibits attribution of comments. Now, the current 2010 chairman of the Council of Chatham House is the former CIA operative, Dr. Deanne Julius, and the director until the end of 2006 was Victor Bulmer Thomas. Clowns in America get everywhere, it seems. The Royal Institute of International Affairs, like I said, was founded in 1920 as the Institute of International Affairs following a meeting at the previous year's Paris Peace Conference. And this group was actually the precursor to the United Nations. Now, the first chairman was Robert Cecil, the first Viscount Cecil of Chelwood, while Lionel, born to, Curtis served as honorary secretary. Arnold J. Toynbee later became the director. The Council on Foreign Relations, its American sister institute, was established the following year. Chatham House is the CFR. And the CFR runs American policy, both foreign and domestic. Chatham House, the RIIA's well-known headquarters at 10 St James's Square, London, was gifted to the Institute in 1923, having previously been the home of 3 British Prime Ministers, Pitt the Elder, sounds like Chinese elders that to me, Edward Stanley and William Gladstone. The name of the building grew to be so synonymous with the Institute that it was officially rebranded as Chatham House in September of 2004. You know how they love their name changes. The song remains the same though. However, Royal Institute of International Affairs continues to be used interchangeably with Chatham House. The building is just located just a few metres from the former Libyan embassy building, and many long-term staff members witnessed the 1984 Libyan embassy siege. Now you know who was involved in it, really. On July the 18th, 2005, Chatham House released a paper on security, terrorism and the UK, which stated that a key problem for the UK in preventing terrorism in Britain is the government's position on as a pillion passenger to the United States war on terror. I noticed they put that out, but they won't release other stuff. Because the reason why is what they don't tell you is they created it in the first place, the war on terror. The likes of these people, the Council of Foreign Relations, the UN, which this group was a precursor to, and they were also involved with OSS. They created war on terror in the first place. Remember Mr. Rosenthal on Tuesday stating, "We play both sides of the coin to garner the reaction to hand them the solution they had before the engineered conflict even started." That's how these people work. And Chatham House conducts original research into a variety of regional and global issues and describes itself as follows: a melting pot that brings people together and organisations with an interest in international affairs. For that, read with an interest in interfering in international affairs. Then they said we provide an independent forum with which academia, business, diplomats, the media, NGOs, politicians, policymakers and researchers can interact in an open and impartial environment. They missed out one word: clowns. The widespread recognition of the Chatham House rule as a byword for free and frank debate is a reflection of our unique and non-aligned perspective, they say. Free and frank debate. Oh my, they just try propaganda and Frankish debate, because that is the real terminology. Look up Frankish, same people. Chatham House is routinely used as a source of information for media organisations seeking background or experts upon matters involving major international issues. This means they are the scripted narrative of lies, writers to formulate an opinion for the gullible public. Chatham House, they say, reflects a pro-establishment view of the world due to donations from large corporations, governments and other organisations, but is nevertheless membership-based and anyone can join. What they mean by that, they are pro-Israel establishment view, is exactly what they mean. The relatively high annual membership fee tends to put access to Chatham House out of reach to the many ordinary people, so it's not anyone can join. You know, why they wouldn't want rational thinking and common sense people talking now, would they? Just fire hazard jackasses with loads of pieces of paper. Chatham House is the original of the confidentiality rule known as the Chatham House Rule, which provides that members attending a seminar may discuss the results of the seminar in the outside world, but may not discuss who attended or what they said. The Chatham House Rule evolved to facilitate frank and honest discussion on controversial or unpopular issues by speakers who may not have otherwise had the appropriate forum to speak freely. what about the people? Oh, forgot. Fact checkers rule that. However, they say most Chatham House meetings are held on the record and not under the Chatham House rule. But if you ask for the Freedom of Information Act to see what they said or did, it would be denied. And the rule currently reads as follows: when a meeting or part thereof is held under the Chatham House rule, participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor that of any other participant may be revealed. The sponsors of Chatham House: the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Norway Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Open Society Foundation, Soros, and also the Rockefeller Foundation. That is Chatham House. Now, following our last show, Intel, and rumours of a literal agency wars between the CIA and NSA, the question is, what happens next? Well, a report came out and said the Christmas Day bombing clearly targeted a building of telecommunications giant AT&T, whose Nashville facilities are also believed to serve as a major outpost of the US NSA National Security Agency there. And the report says the NSA has long been in rivalry with the CIA. Now the factions are. The two of them work together. And they are likely now on opposing sides in the Trump versus Biden election fraud controversy. They're nothing to do with it. That is just the distraction for those people to carry on playing games. As a result of the bombing itself or related sabotage hidden from the public, a major telecommunications collapse occurred, extending through several states, shutting down flights and touching some US military installations. How interesting. The media and the FBI did exactly as predicted on Christmas Day. They rolled out another triple-named subject, or suspect, Anthony Quinn Warner. And they said he died in the RV bombing. Except the bomb blast was actually on the other side of the road. And there is clear evidence from video of a missile contrail just before the blast, all done in the vicinity of the towering building that looks like an owl. Yet again, the repetitive media bots roll out a triple-named lone nutjob as the perpetrator of this act, just like they have done throughout his story. Their own pictures gives the game away on those, as they try to confuse the public with shots from different ends of the road of where the event took place. The masses don't see it. They are only meant to hear what is being said to upgrade their software program only, to then be directed to blurb their denial shit across the social media. Another of their distraction events. Look what Satan brought you for Christmas, Tennessee. Oh, rest you merry gentlemen, whilst we act out another theatrical staged event. These next four pieces confirms much of our story also. The FBI and the Justice Department this week have declared Israel the second most aggressive nation running espionage operations against the US. The US security establishment has always regarded Israel as its number one counter-intelligence threat in the Middle East. Israel sold US war plans to Russia and China. US intelligence officers say Mossad is a second-rate operation. That was recently, that was Langley. Israeli intelligence assistance is often of dubious value, and the CIA is appalled at the lack of quality. They often give the US faulty, misleading intelligence. That was all in the past week. All evidence of faction infighting. But after our From Russia with Love +4 expose this week, there can be no shred of doubt now as to whom is the big problem. A problem not just to agencies or political concerns, but to every man, woman and child on this planet, including the average Jewish people. These parasites have to be stamped on and crushed out of existence in the same way they've done it to us for thousands of years. In fact, the same way they wish to destroy us now. Whilst all that distraction was going on, another Israel issue cropped up. In 1987, Jonathan Pollard, a former Pentagon intelligence analyst, pled guilty to performing as a spy for Israel, providing Israel with top-secret US classified information, and he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for violations of the Espionage Act. A proper sentence. Pollard was the only American who has received a prison sentence for passing classified information to a US ally. Now, to set the stage, on October the 25th, 1985, Pollard was seen carrying a large bundle from his office to his wife's car and was consequently placed under surveillance. On November the 21st, he was arrested as he approached the Israeli embassy in Washington and then charged with espionage. After serving his 30-year sentence, Pollard was released on November the 20th, 2015, and then placed on parole in accordance with federal guidelines in place at the time of his sentencing. On the 20th of November 2020, the parole expired and all restrictions were removed and Pollard was a free man. On December the 29th, 2020, Pollard and his wife left the United States and arrived in Israel on a private plane provided by the American casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, who is a major funder and board member of the Republican Jewish Coalition, a pro-Israel lobbying group and a billionaire supporter of the GOP, and also both Netanyahu and President Trump. Oh, really? Guess THI was correct again. The trustee was repeatedly warned of that fact, of Trump's connection to Israel, and chose to ignore it. And unless groundbreaking actions are taken within this calendar month, both of them, along with Q, will have to be looked upon with suspicion and potential accomplices to the hostile takeover of America and its people. We want actions, not talk. Now, upon disembarking from the aircraft in Israel, Pollard, who had never lived in Israel before, triumphantly kissed the ground. "We are ecstatic to be home," he said. How can you be home if you've never lived there, jackass? After 35 years, he said as he was greeted at the airport by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli leader jubilantly immediately presented Pollard and his wife, Esther, with Israeli ID cards granting them Israeli citizenship. So let's get this right, shall we? Israel welcomes a criminal who worked against their so-called ally and their people. We have to look closely in the future as to who or what is an ally, because it looks and speaks of a lie. And the fact that the AI system in the 100 series was called the same phonetically perhaps becomes indicative. Speaking of spies, here's another one, and another confirm of our From Russia with Love series. George Blake, the former MI6 officer and one of the Cold War's most infamous double agents, has died aged 98, according to the Russian media. Now, over 9 years, the Soviet spy handed over information that led to the betrayal of at least 40 MI6 agents in Eastern Europe, and he was jailed in London in 1960, but dramatically escaped in 1966 and fled to Russia. Like that ever happens. Now, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service said Blake had a genuine love for our country. Blake himself worked for the Dutch resistance during World War II, Gladio, before fleeing to the British-controlled Gibraltar, and he was later, due to his background, asked to join the intelligence service. Now, in an interview with the BBC in 1990, Blake said he estimated that he betrayed more than 500 Western agents, but he denied suggestions that 42 of them had lost their lives as a result of his actions. Now, his downfall came when a Polish Secret Service officer, Mikhail Golanowski, defected to the West, bringing his mistress and details of a Soviet mole in British intelligence. Now, Blake was recalled to London and arrested, and at a subsequent trial he pleaded guilty to 5 counts of passing information to the Soviet Union. And Blake did enormous damage to British intelligence operations during the Cold War, betraying agents and secret operations and showing that the KGB could run agents within the heart of the British state. Oh, and I forgot to mention that George Blake was not Russian at all, but was Jewish, working for the KGB. And the truth bell rings again for the From Russia with Love series. There was a book that was published in 1994, and the title of the book is 2020, by an Israeli editorial house called Chatham Press, which literally translates to Crown or Corona Press, which is quite an inauspicious start for those who dismiss any speculation into predictive programming as tinfoil hat material. But all this could simply be a coincidence at this point. Perhaps not. The novel or novelle, COVID or book. Anyway, the novel was originally written as a film script in 1987 by an Israeli psychiatrist and the daughter of one of the Jewish state's most well-known playwrights. Hamatul Shabtai was only in her early 20s when she ostensibly wrote the story, which predicts the state of the world today as a result of the counter-virus measures, with uncanny accuracy, and foretells of a society ravaged by a virus which ushers in a global health dictatorship. Oh my. In 1987, the same year 2020 was written as a movie script, Chatham became a public company. And here's where the plot thickens. 2 years later, the British tycoon and spy master Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, acquired control of the publishing house after Maxwell Communication Corporation bought Macmillan, which then owned Chatham, Keter. The publishing house was then passed on to an Israeli investment concern called Aladan. After Maxwell's death in 1991, which was fake, which it owned until 2016. Now, Aladan has companies in America, Germany and Canada. All of them are vulture capitalists run by Elliot Schiff, born to, from a shell company based in the fake Jerusalem. Now, Robert Maxwell's link to Israeli intelligence has been well documented, and in particular by a person by the name of Whitney Webb, who in a series on Jeffrey Epstein, who ran a sex trafficking blackmail operation with his daughter Ghislaine. Now, Maxwell's ties to a publishing company with such extensive ties to the Israeli government, which was providing what were most likely very sensitive materials from Russian scientists to the American NSF at the height of the Cold War, is enough to cast doubt on the true origins of the 2020 novel. The point is, they were not Russian scientists. They were Jewish, like George Blake. And From Russia with Love +4 confirmed who runs Russia, and has done since 1919. Our show has been warning about robots for quite some time, and they were way ahead of what we are led to believe. And then this report comes out. You think it's a coincidence? No, it's not. Just 2 weeks, well, after it was announced China was developing biologically enhanced super soldiers, France has joined the fray in creating Terminator troops that can be bred to kill, according to a new report. Now, last week, France gave the go-ahead for augmented soldiers. Covered that in one of the expose shows. And some fear the super troopers could be the new norm in the recent future. The French seek to improve physical, cognitive, perceptive and psychological capabilities, and could allow for location tracking or connectivity with weapons systems and other soldiers. Among the ministry's research were drugs to keep troops awake for long periods of time, and combat stress, and even surgery to improve hearing. Now, the new species of augmented soldiers, dubbed Homo robocopus, could also have altered DNA to give them enhanced speed and strength as well as robotics. And Michael Clark, the visiting professor in war studies at the King's College London, told The Sun participating could be using DNA as a farmer would in a herd of cattle. We've reached the point now where we could potentially manipulate people's DNA to breed them into extra strength. You can also breed them out of existence also. Endurance and other things, just as we do with animals, Clark said. Just as we've done with standard cattle to give them more back. We can do that now very precisely with humans. And Clark added that the bio race is being fueled internationally due to fears of China's program. China was running that program at least 2 decades ago. Minimum. Eric Prince was building robot armies. What they're all thinking about is what might come up in 30 years' time, he said. Given another 10 years' development and experimentation, Clark told the paper, the Chinese in 30 years' time might have a cohort of people who are 20 years old who've got particular characteristics they might have tried to breed into them by manipulating DNA. 30 years' time. Yet again, future. Try 30 years past. And it said due to DNA manipulation, future soldiers could also be immune to disease and feelings. And a recent report by the International Society for Military Ethics in Europe reveals a dystopic arena full of bionic men capable of fighting all the time. There's that word again, dystopic or dystopia. It's always the future. No, it's the past. Enhanced soldiers will be reduced to bionic men who run fast, do not need sleep, eat and drink very little, and can fight all the time, the report states. A new species is born, Homo robocopus. Unreal. Now, Sir Lawrence Friedman, the professor of war studies at KCL, told the newspaper, robotics are of more importance. There are people going back into combat in ways they wouldn't have been able to before because prosthetics have been improved. Yeah, way beyond you can imagine. You can use Google Glasses. There's lots of things you can do now with a modern soldier that makes them much more effective than they were in the past. If you want people to act just according to orders, going into great danger, the other trend you can see is that is pretty active at the moment is drones, autonomous vehicles, and so on. While France claims it will abide by humanitarian law, French Armed Forces Minister Florence Parly warned, we have to be clear, not everyone has the same scruples as us, and we have to prepare ourselves for such a future, she said. Now, here is some of the tech they've released in progress to create Homo robocopus. Brain microchips. France has been given the all-clear to develop microchips to enhance soldier brain power. Bionic eyes being developed in Hong Kong. This gives users infrared and night vision. Super hearing, the US tactical communication and protective system, are smart earbuds which boost soldiers' hearing to be near superhuman. Health implants, DARPA, the Pentagon's research arm, is developing cyborg implants to monitor combat efficiency. All those projections said develop or developing. In their world is the same as the use of the dystopian being in the future when it is the past or now. The correct term they should use is we have developed all of that. They're just not telling you yet. Enhanced limbs. A DEVCON report revealed plans to equip US soldiers with enhanced limbs for increased strength. What, are they going to look like Vishnu or Shiva? Enhanced limbs. Oh my God. Exoskeleton legs. The US Army has tested an exoskeleton which can be attached to soldiers' legs and can increase their productivity up to 27 times. Synthetic blood. Resperocyte is a theoretical, red blood cell that could help soldiers not get out of breath and stay underwater for hours. They've already got that. Aaron McCullum's got it. Pain immunity. DARPA's Persistence in Combat initiative would allow soldiers to have their pain suppressed for 30 days. Really? And when you add in full hand replacements, which I've witnessed myself, animal, insect and mammal genes, and this is way further down the line than you may think. Way further down the line.